Thank you. First of all, I do have to apologise because I do have a dead stop. I do have, in our network, have at least 30 employees in Canary Wharf waiting for me to turn up at an event to talk about why you should track and have transparent data. I'm delighted that Max and Ian and many of the speakers have touched on some of the things I was going to touch on today. So I'm going to go through some of the slides quite quickly. They will be left here, but I want to focus on some things that maybe you haven't thought about. So just to get you thinking. So the first thing I want to spotlight is this is the UK at the moment. So 1 in 4 primary school children and secondary school age children in the UK are from an ethnic minority background. When we look at primary school children, it's actually 28%. So that's your future talent pool that's going to enter the marketplace. Those are your new customers, your clients, and your communities. So there's a need to start talent planning now and thinking about that shift that's actually already here. 1 in 8 is the working age population in the UK. It's actually 1 in 10 in the workforce, and that's because there is an unemployment gap. If you're ethnic minority in the UK, you're more likely to be unemployed than other groups, but it's not the same for every group. So one size doesn't fit all. You can't think, oh, that's everybody. You have to think about understanding the different groups according to the census. And then when we look at the top level, so this is public and private sector organisations, we're looking at 1 in 16. So the vision of our network and the board of Race for Opportunity is how can we make that pyramid more into a square so that the next generations also have role models to inspire them as well as those in the workplace. So that's some of the data that I dropped. So these are just some of the numbers. And I just want to talk about the pipeline is 1 in 13. So that's people moving up the management levels. And I've just spotlighted one example of the unemployment gap. So you'll hear in the media, unemployment is falling. I think the last number was 6.2%, but that's as high as 15 or 17% for some ethnic minority groups. So it's always recognizing that there is that need for us to close that gap. Okay, so I'm going to have to skip through these slides, but I'm leaving them here as a special request. So these are some of the cities that you work in, and the reason why I put them together is to really highlight to you that there may be overarching numbers, but actually in between that there's the conurbations, there's the religion, the intersectionality of cultures. There are some that have got the same top line levels of diversity, but larger Chinese communities, larger Pakistani communities. For example, Bristol, the Southwest, is 4.6 for the Southwest area, but Bristol as a city has 16%. So really kind of trying to understand what the communities you are, where you are located, helps you understand what your talent pool should look like. Because that way you potentially have some invisible tentacles into those communities, not to talk about also international footprint that many of those communities will have as well. And this is Newcastle. So I'm going to skip through those. We did a big report that we published in June. So it's just 2 big things in the news. So Vince Cable last week talked about he wanted to monitor ethnicity on boards. We engaged the Financial Reporting Council, which governs all the FTSE boards and all the boards in the UK, and they've actually put "and race" in their preface. And they're signalling a full consultation in 2016. So what they're saying is they want businesses to start thinking about their boards at senior levels and how they can diversify. And also, Danny Alexander, who's the Treasury Minister, circulated our report to all of the government departments to say, when you look at procuring from agencies or organisations, check if they demonstrate any commitment to inclusion and ethnicity. So worth being aware of that as well. I'm going to not really touch on recruitment. I think Sydney did a great job, as did Max. And I just want to talk about briefly unconscious biases. I don't know how aware you are of that, but that's a huge trend going with employers, large brands that you want to engage around ensuring the people who are part of their recruitment process are going through that to ensure that they are fairly recruiting people throughout different stages of the process. And this has connotations for retention. And I do want to kind of focus on that because that's where a lot of conversation has been. So just a few things around mobility and attraction, because it's kind of linked to how you will keep people. We piloted something with Brixton Job Centre. So the Prince of Wales has this Seniors Believing programme. We got 16 employers together, And really what we found, Brixton has a large, diverse community, lots of unemployed young people, and there's something around understanding your industry. So many of you will be there because you either have family members, neighbours, friends, people that you knew who helped you to get in. This is less likely for people from BME communities, but actually once you switch the light on and start to share how you get in and what types of things you're looking for to be on CVs and in applications, then you open that door. And we did a pilot where 52 of the young people, it was 90 out of 90 young people ended up getting jobs. And these are some of the organizations that were involved. So some of these brands you may recognize, people you want to engage, organizations you want to engage. You do well to try and understand what things they're getting involved in and what they care about. So, you know, this dimension of, as I say, I've played the kind of pyramid. They are your customers, clients, and communities. You know, we've heard it already, social media. You can be a rock star overnight or go down in flames, you know, it's that quickly. You could create that kind of whatever, that viral kind of advert or whatever that's around the world like that, and you're really famous, you make others famous, and then all of their supply chain want to also get in and find out who created that magic. So I think the risk and opportunity is there, and it's about how you see it, so I think there's everything to play for. But also, one of the things I talk about here is about statistics, so really understanding the demographic groups, not just, oh, they're all black or whatever, but what else is there? The nuances, or they're all Asian, which is even more important to actually understand the cultural nuances to that. And engaging that workforce is really critical. So I'm going to focus on this, because I've got a desktop on retention, because a number of things were said here, and I just want to spotlight some things that I think are definitely worth thinking about. You have some of the things that I've wrote here. So senior level engagement. I understand 12-month phases when people leave. So you need to track and find out and agree significant touch points where it's useful possibly to get them engaged with senior leaders in some way. It could be some round table, some breakfast, something so that they feel connected to the organization. We've already talked about engagement surveys and engagement because, you know, if somebody feels engaged and connected and valued and their ideas are taken on and they get credit for them and they're recognized, more likely to stay, because in the end, people like people. They connect with people. I'm spotlighting here role models, so whether you can find them, so that demonstrates that actually diverse people who join your industry do get on and are there, so that gives people, oh, there's hope. Somebody's already talked about career routes, and I would say ladders as well. So not only routes, but ladders, what helps to take you up, and make that as transparent as possible, because sometimes there's an assumption that everybody knows how to get on, but actually, unless somebody sits down and explains it to you, or it's in living color, online or available, it's sometimes hard to negotiate those routes. And where there are no or limited role models, somebody can think, well, why should I think I'm going to get on here? I might as well leave and go elsewhere. And also, I do want to touch on the power of mentoring and reciprocal. So actually recognize there's a two-way benefit. So Ian could mentor me. He lives in Wandsworth. I lived in Wandsworth for 20 years. So we've got that in common straight away. Justin, you used to go to America and they say, oh, say that again. Well, when I go, they still say it to me. So we've got that in common. That's immediate. I love America. And Sydney, the subjects that you're talking about are really passionate and on my mind. And Max, I've been to South Africa too many times. I have 2 South African board members on our panel. So what I'm saying is that actually there's a lot of commonality underneath where you can connect. And if people feel connected, they're less likely to leave. And also our benchmarking. So one of the things we do with our employers is actually encourage them to benchmark with us. And we do this every year. I would like to encourage you to do this. These entries are free. We also have an award process, which is also free, to spotlight good practice among some of these employers, I'm sure, who are part of the ones that you want to engage. And one of the things I would say here is about the trends that we find is employers who have networks, so enable their staff to become networked, have higher levels of not only ethnic minority people, but actually management level, better levels of turnover, reduced levels. So within that benchmarking process is a lot of intelligence that helps us to see what makes things work? You know, what are the employers doing where it's sticking? And networks is a big one, and that connectivity to the organisation. I am sorry, I am going to have to talk and run, but thank you so much for inviting me.
Best way to do it.
Thank you.
Sandra, thank you.